What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the insanely short life cycle of multiplayer games right now. This is something I've been noticing for about 2 or 3 years, but over the past year, this has gotten really bad. These games will come out trying to be the next big multiplayer game. They'll come out, they'll have pretty good reception, people will like the game, they'll buy it, there'll be a decent player base at launch, and then seemingly overnight, that player base becomes a shell of itself. And I'm not talking about like the hype died down and the player base is stabilized. I mean, fucking sharp decline, craziness. Not like oh, some people bought it and they didn't like it, some people might have returned it, whatever. I mean, like 90% of the people that were playing it are no longer playing it and they moved on to something else. And the reason this is crazy is because this is happening to games that get good reviews, are generally well received by the players that buy the game, but just die like 2 weeks later. It's crazy how frequently this has happened, and I don't know if this is a problem with gamers' attention spans, where we just have so many good games to choose from that we just constantly bounce around and we just don't play something for very long, or is this an issue of there just not being that many good multiplayer games that have staying power? Is it that there's so many good games, or there just isn't very many good games at all? It's kind of crazy to think about. But you look at a game like Titanfall. This is the game I bring up constantly, where Titanfall, people love that game. It got great reviews from both professional reviewers and from players. Had advertising, was I remember walking into Walmart seeing Titanfall shit everywhere, and what happened? I guess part of that game's problem was that it was on the Xbox One, and the Xbox One wasn't doing too hot when Titanfall was coming out. But what happened with that? That was it's kind of crazy to think about how that game just had crazy reception, and then that game came out last year. A lot of people probably think that game is like 2 years old now. No, that game came out last year. 2014 is when that game came out, and it's a shell of itself. I remember trying to play three months ago. I couldn't even get into a game. There weren't enough people playing. It was late at night, but I couldn't get into a game on the PC, and it's crazy. This is happening to. The reason I bring this up is because this is kind of happening to Evolve. I saw a thing on the Evolve subreddit where Evolve had less people playing it than Left 4 Dead 2, and the game came out a week ago. It had less than it said it had 9,000 people playing it, which is still enough people playing it. You can still get into games or whatever, but it probably had 100,000, 200,000 at least people playing when it first came out, and it dropped down that much, that steep of a decline. I don't feel like that's the player base stabilizing. I just feel like there's a really serious retention issue right now with these multiplayer games, and it's interesting to think about. Another example, we got Destiny, ArcAge, WildStar, Elder Scrolls Online, The Crew. The Crew is probably a really good example. That game had a ton of hype behind it. That game came out in December. It is February, and what the fuck happened to The Crew? I don't know. I don't hear anybody talking about The Crew multiplayer. That was supposed to be a multiplayer racing game, and I don't hear about it. Maybe the game has a huge player base and I'm not aware of it, but according to everything I've heard, is that game kind of dead now? It came out 2.5 months ago. ArcAge is a really good example. That game, well, I never played that game, but I knew that game wasn't going to last very long. That game, when it first came out, there were so many people playing. There were so many people trying to play it that you had to wait for 12 hours to get into the fucking game. And now, no one fucking plays. I don't know of anyone that plays that game. Last time I checked, that game was one of the top Twitch games, and now it had 50 people watching it on Twitch. And I hate trying to compare a game's popularity to Twitch viewers. I know it's stupid as fuck, especially if you look at a game like it's a spaceship game, Eve. That's a big game that has a big community, but no one watches on Twitch. But in the case of ArcAge, that game just fucking plummeted. 2 weeks? The 2 week limelight was over, and then bloop, it's gone. It's what happened, It's crazy to think about it, that these people in these studios work on these games for years and years and years and years, and they last 2 weeks, and the games they're not bad games. The games come out, they get great reviews, people like them for 2 weeks, and they're just done with them. So I'm curious if you guys have noticed this. Are the days of having a game come out and it having like 2 million players for like the entire year or 2 years or whatever, I think those days are done. I remember with Halo 2. Maybe my memory is not correct in this, but I remember Halo 2 seeing that game having like millions of players for like years, and Call of Duty, Black Ops 1 in particular. I remember looking at that game and seeing the concurrent player base with like the globe spinning and where people are playing from, and seeing like 1 million, 2 million people just playing on the Xbox. Those days are fucking gone. And Call of Duty's still the juggernaut of the FPS genre, but I remember seeing Ghost. It had like 12,000 people playing on the Xbox 360. 12,000 compared to like 2 million a few years back. What's going on? People can say like, oh, that series it's shitty now, whatever, but that's for like every game. There's only a few exceptions to this rule. Like League of Legends is the only League of Legends, and I guess like Minecraft are the only games that can pull like those kind of numbers nowadays. And I swear I remember seeing lots of games doing it a few years ago. You'd have WoW, League, COD. I guess maybe League wasn't even out then, but maybe my memory's incorrect, but I swear there used to just be these big communities playing these games, and now there's just not. The only multiplayer game that I can think of that's had staying power at all is Hearthstone, and that is a real mindfuck to me. If you would have told me that Hearthstone would be one of the biggest games in the world 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. A card game is one of the biggest esports in the world. And yes, it is one of the biggest esports. It has like one of the biggest tournament scenes of all games. Whether you like it or not, it is fucking here, and it's here to stay, and I can't believe it. It's unreal. A game that has so little depth that a lot of times when people win or lose, it's down to RNG. People make bots for this game, and the bots play the game to the max rank, and people love it. It's not my thing, obviously, but this is a game that people love, and it's not just a game that people pick up and play for a little bit. There's people that play the fuck out of this game, like 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Hearthstone is their main game. They fucking love it, and it's a card game. It's not like crazy gameplay. It's not like anything ridiculous. This is a card game that Blizzard made with a super small team, a team that was a fraction of the size of their StarCraft team, their WoW team, their Heroes of the Storm team. A fucking tiny little team. They made this game as like a haha for fun mobile game experiment, and it's fucking huge, and it's going to be way bigger than their big front runner, like, which is going to be Heroes of the Storm, the MOBA game that they tried to make. That's going to be they want that game to be huge because they saw MOBAs were the hot thing. And Heroes of the Storm, I don't think it has any legs. I think that game is dead in the water. I feel like even if the game was super good, I just feel like the MOBA market is super saturated. If you're not playing League, you're playing Dota. And if you're not playing Dota, you're playing League. And from what I can tell, both of those companies are doing a really fucking good job right now. And the players, for the most part, are pretty happy. So I'm really curious where Heroes of the Storm is going to come in. Like, how are they going to fit in this sandwich of MOBAs? So I can't believe Hearthstone is as popular as it is. I can understand how it got popular initially because it's a game made by Blizzard with the Warcraft IP, and it's a fun game. It's a fun game to play on your phone, on a bus ride, laying in bed being lazy. You just want to play something and just not worry about it too much, not get stressed out. I can see why people play it in that regards. I can see why it got popular initially, but I can't believe the game has a huge community, a huge tournament scene, a huge like Twitch following. I can't believe that like it's just as big as it is. I just assumed it was going to be like a Farmville thing where people would play it and it'd be a big game, but then it would kind of die off and whatever. It would just be like a mobile game, like something you play on the side. Like, long car ride, I guess I'll play some Hearthstone. No, this is a game that people like. This is like one of their main games. This is a game that people, they love the shit out of it. And I feel like Blizzard must have tapped into some sort of primal thing. Like, they must have really tapped into some sort of primal dopamine brain trick where it's like heroin. Like, opening up those card packs is heroin, and just some It's gotta be, dude. I just can't believe people play that game like as much as they do. I can see why people play it. I can see that, but I just can't believe people play it for like 8 hours a day. Like they play Battlefield or COD or League or whatever. Like the game, it just has like it has so little depth that people make bots that play the game to max rank. You watch the Hearthstone tournaments and people like lose because they get shitty cards, but people love it. They love it. It's crazy. That's a real mindfuck. So that just goes to show you, man. It's this multiplayer space is really fucking weird. You have these games that come out that are, they specifically are trying to make esports their thing and multiplayer and build these multiplayer communities. And you have fucking Hearthstone that's just like, whatever. Just make this game with like 20 people and fuck it. That's the biggest thing. And, we'll see. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think in the comments down below.